Are you ready for the best damn radio show on the planet? Man Hour Nation, rise up.
You know on the beat every time, no. I would like to personally welcome you to Man Hour After Dark. Say that while I bring you the host, Mike, Buck, and Cone. You know who's coming to the sports talk than what you about to hear right here. I second that.
Go. You know that it's us when we talking about sports. Giving you facts on the field to the core. Tune in, we need the support. 1 hour too short, still listen some more. On all your stations, not dropping no music. Stripes like Adidas, but Nike just do it. Down 4 in the 4th, we go for the win. Michael 2 seconds, we taking it in. Buck, Mike, and Combs, you know what's going on. Man, now we're After Dark, no LA, we the big spark. No 4th and inches won't cut short. Got the best talking, it's all sports. Buzzing more than buzz beaters. We coming live all through your speakers, go.
And what is going on, Man Hour Nation? It's your boy Brandon Combs coming to you live on Sunday morning, a snowy Sunday morning here in Chicago. Supposed to get something like 1 to 3 inches. My wife knows what that's all about. But at any rate, we're going to be doing some shoveling later on. But before I get to all that, I'm going to be talking with my guy, Ryan Fitzgibbons. We're going to be talking about the Bears. We're going to be talking about the Cubs. We're going to be talking about the Sox. A little bit of Blackhawks stuff in there for you, too. How many home games do we have left to see Patrick Kane? Man, am I going to be sad when that happens. But without further ado, let me bring on my boy, Ryan Fitzgibbons. What's going on, Fitzy?
What's up, Combs? Shoveling snow, shoveling some shit this morning.
Yeah, is it snowing over by you?
A little bit. It's not much.
Yeah.
The winter weather advisory for just pretty much anything these days. I remember when winter weather advisories were actually for snow, actual accumulation.
Yeah. You know, what's funny is on Tuesday, I got a winter advisory update on my phone, and I go to click on it. I'm like, oh, great, how much snow are we going to get? And it said little to no accumulation. And I said, what kind of winter weather advisory is this?
Clickbait. Everything is clickbait now.
Yeah. I'm okay with it. We've had probably less than 2 inches of snow all winter long here in Chicago. It's been a very mild winter, and I've only broken out the snowblower once. And the only reason I broke that out was because I wanted to get it over with, because it was like negative 95 with the wind chill or something. So I'm okay with that. But at any rate, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. You had a wild weekend, right? How was your weekend over at
Wild weekend at Great Wolf Lodge in Gurnee. So we're there, and I was staying in the room to catch some of the football game because I'm selfish sometimes. The first game was interesting, at least, especially when Mahomes went down. So my wife goes down she brought a friend too with her kid, and they go down to the water park. I'm like, I'll be there in 10 minutes. It was like right before half.
Yeah.
Care. So I go down and find them. I can't find them anywhere. So they come back and they say her friend's kid, she was on one of the water, like they have like these big like playgrounds.
Yeah.
Like the water park itself. I don't know if you've ever been there. She's on one of the water things. She drops trowel and takes a dump.
Oh my God.
Right in the middle of the water park. I don't even think they shut down the water park. She did a Caddyshack without it being a Snickers bar.
She took a deuce right on the water slide? That is amazing, dude.
Yes.
Little kids just don't give a shit, man. Little kids will just drop towel and just go wherever they want to. That is hilarious.
It's like, and then it got me thinking, like, I mean, I'm sure this happens in sports, especially football or even hockey, even worse.
Well,
you got the runs.
There was a player. Wasn't there a player who took a shit on the sidelines and got all sorts of grief from it? I forget where it was. Wasn't it like, I think it was a Buccaneers player or something. He took a shit on the sideline.
There you
He
go.
found a bucket and just dropped trowel and took a shit because he had to go.
Bad chicken. You have some bad burritos. Night before.
Well, Lamar Jackson too, wasn't it? Earlier this season, where Lamar Jackson, got carted off the field, and everybody was like, "What the hell just happened?" And it was because he had to take a shit.
He had to go cacas. He had to go cacas.
Speaking of guys who will go to the bathroom anywhere, let's bring on our guy Johnny Torres. What's going on, Johnny?
Hello. Good morning. Hey guys.
Good morning, Johnny. Good morning, man. You're live and loud and proud here. What's good? Your microphone sounds like you're talking through a megaphone.
All right, I'll try not to use my man voice.
What's going on, Johnny? So we've got Tyler Brockholdt backstage here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Johnny? As your dog's walking around, he might. Speaking of, just dropping and going wherever you want to go.
Yeah.
Speaking of growing a monkey tail, my dog might do that right behind me, so don't be surprised.
I don't know if I've ever heard that term.
The monkey tail?
Yeah.
Oh God,
Dude, that's new to me. My 8-year-old told me about that one day. He's like, Dad, I gotta go grow a monkey tail. And I was like, what the hell is that? He told me. It's funny, hilarious. So we have a very special guest today in our Star of the Week segment here, brought to you by Southside Bags. This gentleman here is one of my favorite cornhole folks. Met him probably about a few years ago. Very, very nice gentleman. He obviously is a 2-year pro. I want to say 2019 to 2022. He was an ACL pro. And not only that, he was actually invited to be one of the ACL commentators. And if you ever have had the chance to view any of his live feeds, this guy knows his stuff. He is pretty much, you can say, the Madden of ACL play-by-play. He joins us from Joliet, Illinois. Please welcome my buddy, my boy, Tyler Brockholdt.
Tyler, what's going on?
Nothing. Can you guys see me or no?
Can't see you, but we can hear you just fine.
Cam's on. Not sure what's going on.
Mysterious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fine. I mean, sometimes we wish that would happen to Johnny's camera, but
Or my
Fair
own.
enough. I don't know if you have any ideas on how to fix it, but this is Cam's on 100%.
huh? I'm so technologically unsavvy. It's not even funny. I'm surprised that I could actually run this freaking podcast.
Caveman. He's a caveman.
I am. But it's fine. I mean, we can go with sound. We can go with sound. I mean, on the podcast form, nobody's going to see you anyway. But
All right.
so we've got Johnny here still. Johnny, you got any questions for Tyler?
No, Combs, not at all. I'm going to go ahead and just sit back and enjoy this interview, and we can intervene afterwards.
All right, sounds good. All right, Tyler. So you and I met probably I would say about 2 months ago now, over at Huey McLafferty's in Lamont, and we got paired up in a blind draw. And it was funny because you and I had just started talking just because we were partnered up and we're talking bags, and we got into a conversation about how I do a podcast and how, I linked up with Johnny. And while we were sitting at the bar, Johnny actually messaged you about this interview, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that day was actually my only win so far in a blind draw, was when I was partnered up with you. So
Shocker.
yeah. I wasn't throwing very well at the time, and now I've thrown a lot more, and I'm still not great, but I'm decent.
Sure.
What is it for you when you're at these blind draws as a guy who was a professional? What is it for you when you get paired up with a novice like myself? How do you try to adjust your game, adjust your style? What do you do to try to help your partner move forward?
So that has changed dramatically throughout the years. So when I was, a 19-year-old teenager and I went to these blind draws, I wanted to make a lot of money. I wanted to win every single time. I was so competitive, right?
Yep.
And when I got a guy that couldn't throw, I wish I could go back in time and be more understanding that even I wasn't good at the time, right? But I'm like, man, I wish I got the best player here so that I could win. And sometimes I would get the best player there, And the best player there would look at me like I wasn't, he looked at me like, I got a bad draw. I got this young kid. I got this guy, whatever. Little did anyone know I wanted to be the best in the shortest amount of time and take as much time to practice as I needed to get to that level. But long story short, as I started getting more and more into it, I started realizing after playing, 5 days a week for 3 years, hundreds of blind draws, that, you can win every one. So I just like to have fun, right? And if I get someone that's, sometimes you get someone that's like just not good because they're drunk, and that happens maybe 10% of the time. And that's
Yeah.
probably the least desirable circumstance, because you're not necessarily on their level and they're like kind of got to babysit, which I've done a few
Ooh.
times. But when you get a novice player, you can tell right away someone who like really, really wants to be good. And I look back and see myself in that person, right?
Yeah.
Man, 3 years ago, I was in the same exact position. I see how excited they get about it. Like, maybe not you specifically, but like a blind draw win. They're like, yes, that was amazing. That's what I've been trying to accomplish for weeks and weeks. And I would say that there's really no, perfect science, like how to react. It's very situational, although I like to be very laxed, meaning I don't have high expectations or maybe any set expectations for this person. I just want them to try their best. If they need some advice, you can number one, take a timeout, or you can call down to the other end of the board and kind of just talk about it. If you're going to miss, if you miss right, you're probably going to knock him in. If you miss left, you might be able to nudge your bag in and go off the board, but that's still more points. Or, in a perfect scenario, you're going to step out, about a foot or so, you're going to throw it right up this place. You're going to take all three of these bags. You're going to score like 9 points. And those couple 30 in blind draws, I try and take a lot of timeouts. If it seems like my partner cares, if it seems like my partner cares and they really want to, whatever, it's like a learning lesson, if you will, right? All right. This is a perfect scenario where there is a lot of risk and a lot of reward, and this shot needs to be executed perfectly. And there is such thing as missing like 2 inches too far to the left and the whole, whole plan going south. Right. So I'll call a timeout. We'll just sit there. We'll talk about it, kind of explain my idea. At the end of the day, you obviously can happily do whatever you want or whatever you're comfortable with. Everyone's play styles and strong suits are very, significantly from player to player. Although just try and talk it through after the game, kind of what we did wrong, what we did right. And I think that feedback, really goes a long way.
Yeah, and I know sometimes you could, like you mentioned, you can get in with the guy who's had a little bit too much to drink, which actually kind of leads him perfectly to Fitz's weekly question that he has here for every pro that we talk to. So Fitz, why don't you go ahead with that question that you have?
Since you brought it up, performance enhancing drugs.
Oh man.
Is it alcohol? And which kind of alcohol is it, and how many drinks?
So there is, I learned this recently. When I got into bags, I was only like 19 or 20 years old, and I didn't drink alcohol until I was like maybe 21 and a half or 22. So for the first like year and a half that I was playing, I wasn't drinking. But I was realizing very quickly that everyone else obviously was drinking. It's typically in a bar scene. And then when I started traveling to play tournaments, I traveled to play in Fort Lauderdale, Florida in 2020, which was the first national tournament I've ever played in. And I'm seeing like, obviously the top competitive level play and all this stuff. These tournaments start at like 10 in the morning. And every single one of these guys or girls are trying to get to this perfect like top of the mountain drunk by 10 in the morning when the tournament starts. They wake up at 8 o'clock, got to have a drink or two, got to take a fireball shooter. I got to get to that point where I'm like letting loose. I'm not as nervous. I'm feeling myself. I can, just play my game. Right. But I've learned even myself that you're always only one drink away from the exact opposite of that. So I give all of these guys credits, all of these guys that need to drink when they play, I give them the utmost amount of credit because they maintain and found some kind of a system where they can maintain that whole entire level until they're out of the tournament. Once they're out of the tournament, it's time to party. But before that, whether it's X amount of drinks per hour, maybe they switch their kind of alcohol, Me personally, just beer. I think beer is the biggest drink for a sport like a backyard game like cornhole. Um, and
Have you ever had a Bloody Mary?
No, never. I know it's like the hangover drink, but I never got into them. I don't really like tomato juice.
Yeah, you kind of gotta like tomato juice to like a Bloody Mary. So maybe someday, maybe when you get a little older.
Yeah, for sure.
Your
so
taste buds will evolve.
Tyler, we got a Facebook user here. Facebook user, if you go ahead and click on the link below the stream and give them access to your Facebook, we'll actually be able to use a name. But I heard it too when you said it, and it's something that I started playing when I was on the East Coast in the Marine Corps and playing softball and during tournaments. That's when I really started playing, and that's what they call it on the East Coast. But when I moved to Chicago and I called it cornhole, everybody's like, no, it's bags. Like, do not call it cornhole, it's bags. And I was like, do you ever get stuff for that? Because you're a pro, and that's what they call it in the pros is cornhole.
I get it all the time, and it is bags. In any kind of debate, I'm taking the bags bandwagon until the wheels fall off, right? But professionally, it's cornhole. It's not professional bags. It's not the American Bags Association or American Bags League or anything like that. So I have just heard cornhole hundreds of thousands of times, and when I'm talking about it professionally, I kind of think it's like I think cornhole is like the class. I think cornhole is like the classy way to say bags. Like only because I'm referring to it typically at a competitive or a professional level.
Right.
But recreationally, if I'm just talking about the game, I say bags for sure.
Okay, perfect. So one of the things that you talked about earlier was just, you'll take timeouts. You'll talk about, hey, if you miss left, if you miss right, this could happen or that could happen. And it happened to me a bunch this past Thursday where I actually found my shot. Like I found where I like to shoot from. I found, standing position is where I like. I have a little leg kick that makes me feel comfortable, and I'm starting to hit my shot and starting to get the bags to do what I want them to do. But about 5 times on Thursday, I got my bag to do what I wanted it to do, and when it hit the board, it didn't finish the way I wanted it to finish. Like I had one where I had 2 sandwiched right in front of the hole. I hit the bag straight on. I thought they were going to drag them all in, and instead all 3 of them stopped right dead in the hole. And then the other team on the next round came back to beat us. And it was like, damn, I hit my shot perfectly. Is that something that as a pro you see a lot on the pro level, or is that just something where you see it more on the intermediate level?
No, absolutely. You see it all the time. Now, what I'd recommend there, and it does seriously get this deep and this technical, I recommend maybe a change in bag selection. Okay. If anyone's not familiar with like a cornhole professional bag that's double-sided and yada yada yada, they make a speed scale from 1 to 10. They also have a variation for size of template, from small bag in your hand to big bag in your hand. Obviously, it has to be within the variation. Then they have a variation in weight. So all of these different factors make bag A to bag Z completely opposite of each other, right? Some are slinky, easy to fall in the hole. Some are stiff, super full feeling, and everyone has their preference, right? But when you go to these bag tournaments, even though I have one bag that I hope that I get to use, and when I say hope I get to use, it means that playing obviously throughout the country changes the humidity changes the dampness and the speed of the board, and the speed of the board might change your play style to, I need a faster bag to compensate for these super slow boards, right? Right. In that scenario, the boards are probably pretty sticky, and that's why you got much less forgiveness in your throw or your follow through or whatever it was. And you might have been throwing a bag that either wasn't broken in 100%, even if it was broken in 85%. That could have been the difference between hitting that shot and not hitting the shot. And you might have been throwing just a bag that was a little too slow, a bag with not enough forgiveness. So after a shot like that, it's happened several times. It will change my whole outlook on the tournament, bag selection, play style. Because if the boards are super sticky, Me personally, I'm tempted to throw the slowest bag possible and play a chess game with you on the boards and put a blocker up and go around the blocker, over the blocker, through the blocker, all this stuff.
Yeah.
When the boards are super fast, typically like these boards play like glass, or like ice,
Mhm.
and the slowest bag in the world, you're still going to have trouble throwing your blocker. You're going to be missing left, missing right. You're going to be giving up too many points. You're going to lose the games for that reason. So in the sticky condition, that's when I like to play the slower game, which is the exact opposite of everyone else. When the boards are super sticky, I would say over 50% of the players are going to go grab the fastest bag they have. They compensate so that they can just go. They call it hole for hole, which means
Yeah.
my goal is to put every single bag in the hole. Not the game I like to play. I like to look at bags like chess. I think it's a lot more fun. I think it's a lot unpopular opinion. I think it's a lot more fun to watch when there's a lot more going in. You get to this pro level where the pros average bag percentage in the hole is in the 80s, and you're watching, 200 bags thrown and over 150 bags in the hole straight in. No, no chess match, none of that.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like when someone's like, I've heard like really good bowlers say, it's not only the strikes you get, but how you pick up the spares. Really,
Yeah, absolutely.
will change your game. And to that, I feel like I really like the way you explain bags. Like you're really excited about it. You can articulate it really well down to the details. Is there a detail when you're playing somebody, or like a small detail that maybe a novice, and I use that term glowingly for myself, or a novice bag player? Is there a detail you're looking at for somebody, how to attack them? Or maybe, oh, this guy's really good. Is there a detail I wouldn't know about that you would know that you can lend to us to give us like another, maybe idea of bags?
So I would say not even loosely, I would say everyone wants to throw a flat bag with a lot of rotation. I would say nobody starts playing bags with a flat bag, lot of rotation, right? So I can tell right away by looking at you throw 4 bags, not necessarily how good you are, but I got a pretty good idea of what's going on, because there's some people that are very comfortable with their throw, but it's just not a good throw. The bag comes in vertically and whatever. Now, I also have seen some of the weirdest, most unorthodox stances, throws, follow-throughs, bag flights, everything. And it works. And there are professionals that have the craziest thing you've ever seen, and they make it work for themselves. But the average population of the people that throw bags are trying to achieve, like, my bag is coming out a little bit too right loaded, which means the left side of the bag is up in the air higher than the right side is. And that's causing the bag to kick as soon as it hits the board. A lot of rotation and super flat, your bag should never kick. So if you're throwing and your bags are going left and right and off the back and jumping, skipping, turning, it's not typically the bag's fault. It's the thrower's fault that has a throw that has this variation in it that, you throw a bag. If you just grab a bag, and I wish I had my camera on so I could show you, but if you just grab a bag and you put it in your hand, or you're holding it like you hold a baseball, and you throw it underhand, the thing's going to turn head over heels, right? And when that hits the board, it's unpredictable on what's going to happen every single time. Sometimes it's going to land on the seam. Sometimes it's going to land flat. Sometimes it's going to land on the right or the left side of the bag is going to make it go the opposite direction of the side of the bag that it lands on. So you want to get to this perfect stage where you understand what your bag is going to do. Now, at first, you want to focus on putting bags in the hole, and you want to tweak things slowly but surely, right? I'm not going to say that, I could watch someone, give them one tip, their whole entire bag flight is going to look differently, and they're going to be a pro in a day. But there's a lot of practice that goes into it. I think the biggest thing is your IQ, and I think the second biggest thing is, how you throw, what your mechanics are, I'd say.
Yeah. So during our conversation, when we met, we were talking about being a pro, and I was actually shocked because everybody has this perception that when you're a pro, you're getting paid to just play cornhole all day long, and you're not doing anything else on the side. And
Sure.
you let me know that wasn't the case, and that's actually why you stopped playing.
That's true.
What is life like after being a pro and now going to these blind draws, as opposed to life on the scene where you are a pro and you are trying to become the top 10-15%?
Yep. I feel like I was on tour. It was a lot of fun. Every 4 weeks I was packing up my bags and hitting an airport to go to some convention center in the middle of the country or across the country to go throw bean bags in a hole for 3 days straight, pretty much. And it was awesome. I had so much fun doing it. I would not trade my time as a pro for anything. But I mean, really, I played professionally in 2020. The game has almost doubled in size year over year since then. So the total prize pool in payouts for the whole entire season was like 500,000. The year after, which was my second year pro, was $1 million. So obviously it was twice as sustainable to make any kind of a living off of it, right? And now I don't know what the prize pool is going to be this season as we start up here coming shortly. But, it's going to be bigger than $1 million. So I will say that bags will get there. Bags will get there within a couple years. But presently, or at least at the time when I was pro about 2 years ago, only the top 10 to 15% of professionals could make a living. The top 1 to 5% were making more than a living. We're able to sustain whatever you want. They played bags from sun up to sundown every day of the week and never had to think about getting a 9 to 5. The bottom 40% of pros might make $5,000 a year.
Yeah.
And that's just, that's getting into the nitty gritty, but these tournaments, they pay out maybe the ACL pays out pretty deep, right? So typically when you're running a blind draw, you want to pay out 1 to every 3 to 4 entries. You want to pay out 25% of the field, 30% of the field. I feel like the ACL pays out about that, maybe a little bit more, but you still have to win at least 3 or 4 games in your bracket to make it to the money. So if you're bottom tier pro, that means you're beating basically 4 other pros that are better than you, which in a parlay is probably plus 15,000 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you travel across the country, you play in a singles tournament, you don't win a single game, you go 0-2, and then you play doubles with your partner, you might go 1-2. You got to play 5 games of bags, you only won 1, and you made $0. It cost you $1,000 to get there, to play, to whatever.
Right.
But honestly, at the time, I gave a shit less about that. And I was just enjoying my time doing it so much. I thought it was amazing to represent the ACL. I loved bags so much that it was I was okay with it taking all my money. And that's almost exactly what it did.
Yeah. And that's, to me, like I said, I mean, there's a perception that everybody gets paid, and that's what everybody does. And I know that at that level, the competition is amazing. So right now, and before we bring Johnny back on and we get you guys out of here, my last question I ask every pro that we've had on this.
Sure.
If you could take on one pro right now, who are you beating?
Man, I don't think I can beat very many of them anymore. I promise you that.
Oh, Tyler, you got to talk yourself up, buddy. You got to be like, no, you know what? I'm taking on number one and I'm knocking him out.
This is a testament to the sport and how quickly growing it is. When I played 2 years ago, I felt like on any given, if I was having my day, I could beat anyone in the world. And when you're doing that and you're practicing 6 or 7 days a week, it's kind of easy to justify. Now, when you take a 1.5 year hiatus and you've played, maybe 15 blind draws in 2 years, you don't have that, edge anymore. I still have the IQ. I still have, I would say 65 to 75% of the talent that I had before, but I'm not the player that I was. I just want to, this is going to be more so of talking smack. I'm gonna say my pro partner Miguel Villa.
Okay.
I run pretty good against Miguel. We've played each other as pro partners in doubles. We've played each other in singles and professional events. It seems like every other event. It was crazy how often we were running into each other. We could never stay away from each other in the bracket. And I always give him shit that I'm always going to win and I'm going to beat him for forever. But he's a great shot. I had a lot of fun playing doubles with him as well.
All right. Well, when we interview Miguel, we're going to let him know you said you're going to kick his ass. So,
all right, perfect.
All right. So let's bring Johnny back on. Johnny, how's it going?
Hey guys, great interview.
Thank you. You have any questions for Tyler?
No, I do want to share that we will be interviewing Miguel Villa, who is the ACO regional director, on April 2nd. So I can't wait to have him on the show to see what his reply to Tyler's final statement here.
It'll be the exact opposite. but there's one truth. And that's what I told you. I don't like
All right. Single source of truth.
I like it.
No. Tyler, I want to thank you for taking the time off of your busy schedule. I know you're a busy man nowadays. You're, selling homes. I'm not sure if we ever touched base in that, but you're currently doing real estate. I wish you nothing but luck in that and all your endeavors. And also, I want to extend an invitation to you to come out to one of Southside Bag's blind draws. You gotta make time. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, now that I know you sell homes, I'm gonna have to come talk to you in the spring when me and my wife start looking for a place out in the northwest suburbs.
Beautiful. We'll connect. That's where I'm from Joliet, but I live in Naperville. That's where my office is.
Okay.
The first year or so I did real estate, I did it solely in Chicago, so I know the Chicago market really well, but I know the suburbs better by default because that's where I'm from, and that's where I've done the next 2 years of my business.
Awesome.
But hey, guys, thank you sincerely for having me on. Obviously, this is amazing. Miguel Villa and I used to run a podcast, a cornhole podcast, and it feels good to be like back in the chair with the headphones on. And this is something that I enjoyed doing a lot, but we kind of just fell off doing it, and feels really good to be back. I appreciate you extending the invite to have me on, and hospitality and such.
No problem. We'll have you on again. For sure.
Tyler, Cubs or Sox?
Cubs all the way.
Yes. Let's go. Still undefeated. We haven't had one Sox fan yet. The ACL is all Cubs. That's what it is.
My mom was a diehard Sox fan. My dad was a diehard Cubs fan. I've been to probably 20 Sox games, and I enjoyed all of them, but I'm taking the Cubs.
Attaboy. Attaboy. All right, Tyler. Thanks for joining us, bud. We'll talk to you again.
Yes, of course. Take care, guys. Thanks again.
Thank you. Johnny, another great interview, bud. Another great talk with another former pro. Tyler's a great guy. I met him, like I said, over in Lamont throwing on a Sunday, and the guy is just he's down to earth. He's really cool, but he's just like the rest of the Bags community, where everybody gets along. Everybody talks. There's nobody I haven't seen one time at a blind draw where somebody's gotten mad at their partner or are yelling or angry, unless they know each other and they're just talking shit to one another. Like it's a really tight-knit community, and I really enjoy it.
Oh yeah, for sure. He is a great guy. I was excited when he accepted the invitation to come on to your show here. So, but yeah, next week we are expected to interview an ACL pro, Steven Bernasette.
Awesome.
Looking forward to that. Another stand-up guy, very, very down to earth. Also sponsored by Titan Bags, and so looking forward to that, guys.
Also, Nico and Stephanie are coming out to Bourbon this Thursday night. Is the rumor? And Nico said he's going to have my money. So
absolutely, the Morales family will be coming over, as well as Tom Gustafson. If I'm correct. So the whole mafia
on the reverse Mamba, is that what you're saying?
The whole Titan mafia will be at Bourbon Street.
You know what's going to happen too, Johnny, right? Them two are going to get paired up with one another, and I'm going to have to play them in the first round because that's what you do to me every week, Johnny.
You always play with the good team versus the good team, right? First
Every
game.
time.
Absolutely. You played me last week, I think.
I did. And I did not beat you. I did not.
If it says shocker.
Yeah, shocker for sure.
Nah, I was throwing like shit, dude. The last two over Tuesday at shortstops, and then Thursday I was just complete garbage. And I think part of that is because I chose not to, for whatever reason, did not play the first tournament.
Yep.
And so, you're definitely not in it. It takes a little bit for you to get back in it. I'm not sure. I may have had more than one performance enhancer drink, but yeah.
All right, Johnny. Well, we appreciate you, bud. We will talk to you again. I'll talk to you this week, obviously. And we'll see you again next Sunday, and we will interview another ACL pro.
Absolutely. Mark your calendars. February 4th, Saturday. I'm having a birthday party at Bourbon Street.
Oh, boy.
Right.
So February 5th, Fitz, we probably will not have a show because I will still be in a coma.
Absolutely.
Play like a champion. Get
All
over
right.
and play like a champion. Thanks, Johnny.
Thanks,
All right,
Johnny.
guys.
All right, so that was Johnny Torres, Southside Bags. Look, it really is. I mean, we talk about it every week. We talk to pros every week. But, I mean, these blind draw tournaments in this cornhole community is just it is what it is. I mean, they're just a great group of guys and girls. There's a lot of girls that play, and they are very good as well. As a matter of fact, the next time that I get up there on a Sunday, there's this girl Michelle who throws, and she is phenomenal. I definitely want to get her on there. I want to talk about women in the sport, and get their side of things too. So,
sure.
But yeah,
Tyler was good too. I mean, you can hear it in someone's voice when they're passionate about the sport and know how to articulate it and know the details and know how to articulate the details. Not always easy to do.
Right. Yeah.
We struggle with it.
And that's what our passion is too. Like, our passion is talking about sports. We like talking with guys who are passionate, girls who are passionate. We like talking with athletes who really enjoy their sports. And as your son is passionate with playing with his toys in the background there. There's nothing.
You can hear it.
Yeah. No, you're good. But it's, the passion that it brings. Like right now, we're about to talk about the Chicago Bears, right? And that is a team that both you and I are both extremely passionate about. And I heard something this past week that I was like, you know what? Let's talk about this, because this is an interesting question. And that question is, which current playoff team would you like the Bears to most take their model for their franchise? Which franchise in the playoffs should the Bears model themselves after? Who would you take?
I'm probably gonna take, and this is like cheating almost, Philadelphia. The only reason why I'm not taking the Chiefs is because I think that offense needs a very acute players. Like, you have to have a really good offensive line. You have to have a guy like Patrick Mahomes, but there's a lot of quarterbacks that can play in that. You have to have some really good wide receivers. Like, you have to have a certain set of players, and we saw that with Nagy trying to fit that offense, that round peg into a square hole, or vice versa, and it didn't really work. So, I mean, I think Philly, what they've done with Jalen Hurts is really incredible from what he was to begin with. Not that he didn't have the talent and know-how, but like, that is a well-oiled machine.
Yeah,
that is a blueprint that I'm pretty jealous of, for sure. And the way they play defense, come on.
Well, not only that, but that actually is the team that I was going to choose. So it's going to make for a really boring segment.
Yes, here we go.
The reason why I do is because you look at this team 2 years ago, right? And Jalen Hurts was a rookie and coming up, and they weren't very good. Last year, you saw some growth out of them. You saw, hey, this guy could actually be a good quarterback in this league. This guy could be our future franchise quarterback. I still didn't believe in him. Heading into this season, I was not a Jalen Hurts guy. But they built around him. They went and got him a wide receiver. They went and got him help on the offensive line. They went and got him help on the defensive side. They built around their guy, and that's exactly the position that the Bears are in right now.
Mm-hmm.
They are in that position where they've got their franchise quarterback, and now they need to build. They saw the growth they needed to see, or they should have saw the growth that they needed to see, and now you build around the guy and turn this into what it is. Now, I'm not saying the Bears are going to go out next season and be a 13-4 team, right? That's kind of a pipe dream at this point. But you can put the pieces in place where you can win your division, where you could be. I don't expect the Bears to be any less than a 10-win team next year.
Experience.
With the amount of money that they have and what they can do in the draft, they should. If they are less than a 10-win team next year, and if they are less than competing for this division, it's a failure.
There's a problem. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people saying, oh, 6-7 wins. You're not going to improve that much. It's the goddamn NFL. This isn't baseball. You're not waiting 3-4 years for this. You're not, getting a college education while you wait for the Cubs to rebuild or the Sox. I think that's true. I mean, you can turn around a team in one season. Championship, yeah, that's probably not going to happen. You're going to have a lot of rookies playing on this team no matter what, and a lot of second-year players as well, and a third-year quarterback. And, I think he'll take a giant step forward, Fields, but he's not going to be a finished product yet. So I think, 9-10 wins, they better at least be close to that. Or if they're at 8 wins, those 2 games, the ref did this or one little catch, and they're in the playoffs. That's what you want to see, and you want to see a lot of growth out of the team too.
And you say Justin Fields is not a finished product, but here's what I'm going to tell you, and here's what I'm going to put the onus on Justin Fields, because I'm a Justin Fields guy. As you can see in the background, I got the Justin Fields jersey hanging up. I love this kid. I've been on his team since day one. I am all in on Justin Fields being our franchise quarterback. But I'm gonna play devil's advocate a little bit here. By the end of this next season, if the Bears do what they need to do, and if they don't screw this up this offseason, and they build around him and get him the weapons, he needs to be a finished product by the end of 2024. Well, actually, the end of 2023, because that'll be this season. Mm-hmm. So he needs to be a finished product by the end of this year if they build around him. And then if he's not, then it is a fair question as to whether or not this guy is the franchise quarterback. Then it is a fair question, like your brother tends to bring up all the time. Can this guy be anything more than a running quarterback?
Yeah.
If you do the things that you're supposed to do this offseason, he has to be the guy by the end of the season. You have to be able to look at him and be like, yeah, look, in next year, this guy might be a top 5 quarterback. And this year he was top 10, top 15. Yep. That's what he needs to be if you're going to build around him this year.
Yeah, he has to go from a running quarterback to a mobile quarterback. I mean, I just think, or trade him. John again. Yeah, at Q him up. But I mean, I just think there's not much reason to trade him right now. I mean, next year you can trade him next year. You're going to have 2 first-round picks next year. There's almost no way you're not.
Yeah.
I don't know what Jeremiah said right there, but yeah.
Jeremiah said if we can be the Eagles last year, I'll be happy. 9-8, maybe squeeze into the playoffs.
Yep. I can agree with that.
See, I disagree with that because if you're a 9-8 team and you barely squeeze into the playoffs, it means you did not do enough this year with what you have. Because right now their potential for growth is double anybody else in the leagues. They have double the amount of cap space. They have the number 1 overall pick, so by the time they trade it, they're going to have double the draft picks. Their potential for success next season, they need to set that bar at 10 to 11 wins. They need to set that bar at winning this damn division. They need to set this bar at being better than the Vikings, who might have been the worst 13 or 4 or 12-5 or whatever the hell they were team. They need to be better than the Lions. You can't let Jared Goff and the boys be better than you next year. And they showed a lot of growth this year as well. And you damn sure better be better than the Packers, who all signs show that Aaron Rodgers is on his way out of town. So with everything that you have, with everything that you have, all the assets that you have in front of you, you better be the best team in this division next year.
I just don't think, especially in football, you could just say, I mean, who knows what injuries are going to happen? Is Justin Fields playing 17 games? Is he playing 15 at least? Yeah, okay, I can jump on that if the receiving core is still in line. You don't have a line that's trouble, or you're not playing Braxton Jones 10 games next year, 11 games. I mean, it's hard to say that, and that's a lot of ifs too. Yeah, I mean, I think they should be competing for this crappy division. 6-11 next year with Fields.
Stop it.
And if that happens, then John is right.
Yes.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine that he's right. And then you have
It's not fine that he's right, but okay.
And you'll still be able to trade Justin Fields. If Justin Fields, let's say, has a mirror year that he had this year, you will be able to trade him for something. And somebody will take him for something, and you'll have 2 first-round picks next year. You don't have to jump the gun here. You really don't. You're holding all the cards.
Right. And that's where the Bears, to me, like, you look at in this the reason why I didn't take the Jaguars as the model my franchise after, because the Jaguars had the number 1 pick last year. They won their division this year, even though they were only 9-8, and they won a playoff game. The reason I didn't pick the Jaguars is because they went out and found a brand new head coach, and they went out and found a guy that worked for their system and was able to bring the team along, right? Like Brian Dable's another one. The Giants, they're supposed to be in a rebuild, and all of a sudden they're in the NFC divisional round, right?
Yep.
So
got a lot of good coaching, because that Daniels Jones thing is trash.
And
mediocre at best.
I don't necessarily want the Bears to go out and be a team that feels like they have to be in the midst of a rebuild, but with what you have ahead of you and what you have that you've produced on the field so far, you are in a rebuild. But you're in a much better position than any team has ever been in a rebuilding season. With all of the cap space, with the number 1 draft pick, with all of the people that need to move into the number 1 pick, and you've already got your franchise quarterback. The bar needs to be here for this team and not here, because I'm telling you right now, 9-8 next year and squeezing into the playoffs, I'm still not going to be happy. And I might jump on John's train of, hey, maybe we need to trade Fields. Because if they built around him, if they went out and got him weapons, they went out and get him a wide receiver, they go out and get him an offensive line, maybe they draft a wide receiver, maybe they do the things that they need to do. It doesn't have to be Quentin Johnson, but maybe they get a guy even in the second round. Maybe they go out and they build it up, and we're like, you know what? We're excited for this team. This team should do some damage compared to what they were last year and what they are now. If we're looking at them like that, and they're just barely squeezing into the playoffs, and they're not winning this division, which is not necessarily a stellar division in its own right. I mean, we might be thinking of it more like we thought of the NFC East heading into this season. We need to see this team win this division. We need to see this team grow, and you can do that. You can go from being the worst team in the division to being the best team in the division. We see it every year. The Jaguars had the number 1 pick and the worst record last year. They were in the playoffs this year, won their division, and won a playoff game.
Yeah, I mean but they're by far, they should have lost that Chargers game. They weren't really, I mean, they snuck into the playoffs.
But they didn't. They found a way to win it. I mean,
but they do it. Yeah, but you're right. The Bears have the 1st round pick for the first time since the post World War II era.
Yeah.
Since 1947.
We also have a 1st round pick for the first time since Ryan Pace traded all of ours.
Yes. Plus, they probably have the best drafts set up here since they got Sayers and Butkus. There's a lot going for them. I just think it's, even for the NFL, is a little too much too fast to say that they're just going to dominate the division. That, they're not going to, they're going to lose some games because some rookie dropped a pass or dropped an interception or missed a tackle or missed an assignment or this or that, because what was it? 50-60% of the games this year came down to 1 score in the NFL. I mean, when you do that, you have to be disciplined, and you're going to have 7 or 8 rookies play on this team this year. at least play some kind of time. You're probably going to have 3 or 4 guys who are starting, and you're going to have all the guys that are in their second year. I think saying that the bar's that high is a little much, but
see, I think that I honestly believe, because I do believe we have the right GM. I do believe we have the right coaching staff. I do believe we have the right quarterback. I think that by the end of this draft, or maybe even leading into the draft, we're going to see something that we've never seen in Chicago before, and that is a team that is building the right way. That is a team that is looking to win and looking to build a winning franchise for years to come. I'm not going to say dynasty, because that it takes a lot to be the New England Patriots.
yeah.
A lot of chips have to fall in the right place to be the New England Patriots for the next 20 years. But this is going to be a team in a front office that is finally looking to be the best. And that's something that we haven't seen in Chicago. So I think that leading into the draft and even after the draft, we're going to be really excited about what the Bears are putting on the field. We're going to be really excited about what the Bears have. And we're going to be really excited about what they're going to do in this division. And I honestly believe that all of us will probably be picking them to win the division next year.
It's possible. I have to see what it is. And we did. Man Hour Chicago did scour the internet for mock drafts. And we finally found a mock draft where Quentin Johnson was picked number 4. Number 4?
I wouldn't take him at number 4. I wouldn't take him at number 4. If you have the number 4, if they do the trade that we had suggested, where you move Houston up to 1, you move the Colts up to 2, and you end up with 4 and 12, I'm still taking my defensive end at 4, and I'm taking Quentin Johnson at 12 if he's available. And if he's not, then I might take the best receiver on the board at 12. Just depends on where we fall. Maybe I'm taking an offensive lineman. Also depends on what we do in free agency. There's a lot that goes into it ahead of time. I'm anxious for the Super Bowl to be over with just to see free agency start. This is the most excited I've been, and I'm always excited about Major League Baseball offseason because I'm a nerd with it.
Mm-hmm.
This is the most excited I've ever been for an NFL offseason. The most excited I've ever been. Because I feel like we have all of the right heads in place. I feel like we have I'm a big believer in Ryan Poles. Big believer in Ryan Poles.
Yeah.
I love the addition of the president. His name's going to escape me right now. It's Kevin Warren.
Yeah.
I love the addition of Kevin Warren. I think he's going to be good for Ryan Poles. I love the addition, everything that we're doing leading up to this. I like the coaching staff. I like where their head's at. Do I think Eberflus? To me, the biggest question is Eberflus. Is Eberflus the guy, right? Is Eberflus a guy you can lead lead your team for the next 5-6 seasons? Because that's my biggest question. It's not Justin Fields. It's not Ryan Poles. It's not the front office. It's not the salary cap, and it's not the draft picks. My biggest question mark is Ryan Eberflus.
Yeah.
Matt Eberflus, sorry.
Matt Eberflus. I was going to correct you, but you can just call him Fluss or Flus, whatever the hell they call him. Flusy. Yeah, my dad does call him the Ace Hardware man. Transition hire. It's possible. They usually do more transition hires in basketball or baseball or even hockey. You don't see a lot of transition hires in football, but it does happen. It's not like it doesn't. He could be a transition hire of get some discipline on this team until you find out what your identity is, and then maybe bring somebody else in, and maybe he is the guy. Who knows? Belichick embraced him pretty well. I don't think it's normally a bad thing to have a defensive-minded coach. The only problem is you're changing offenses every 2 or 3 years if you have a good offense.
Jeremiah says a guy that's easy to fire at the end of the rebuild. My question is,
why didn't they hire Ricky Renteria? That's my question.
Yeah. Poor guy. Yeah. If you're so excited about this team at the end of the year, say Ryan Poles heads into the draft and they just killed free agency, right? got ourselves a couple offensive linemen, rebuilt the secondary, did all the things that they needed to do, maybe added a couple interior defensive linemen, that type of stuff. And we're heading into the draft, and we know we're probably going to take the defensive end that we need at 4, maybe even get a wide receiver in the draft. And you know that Fluss was a transitional hire and a guy you weren't going to have around long term. Do you let him coach the team this year? If you're that excited about what you have and you think you've got the team to win, do you let your transitional hire coach this season?
It depends what's going on inside Hellas Hall at this point. I think he did an okay job. I think he brought a disciplined team in that was a second half team for about 10 or 11 games, maybe 12 games. I'd have to go look at the schedule again, but he did some good things this year, and the players seem to listen to him and respond to him. Look at Eddie Jackson. Best year since the Trump administration, which was not that long ago, but still, I mean, he had his best year in a while. Had some really interesting, really good interceptions. That pick on Dak Prescott over the middle, Dak Prescott had no idea what happened. He absolutely played Prescott on that play with a very high-powered offense. He had a great year. I mean, the players are responding to him. He's the Bears breaking area. Exactly. Yeah, that poor son of a bitch. I mean, geez. Yeah, I mean, I think he could be the guy. I think he deserves another year here. You don't bring a guy in, he goes 3-14. You don't give him his Lovie Smith season. You give him a chance here. I think you give him another year. Yeah, I think he's earned it. Even though they're the worst team in the league.
Yeah. The players did respond to him. That's why I'm not so sure that he was a transitional hire. I'm not so sure that he was the guy in between. I think he was the guy that Poles really believes in. I think that's why they went out and got him, as opposed to going out. I mean, to me, it didn't make sense to go out and get Flus if you could have had your other guy, whoever your other guy might be, whether it is, Harbaugh over at Michigan, whether it is, any of these other guys that are out there on the market. And it's not like anybody's opening up that you're going to want to take a shot at. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, short of, maybe Brandon Staley loses his job or even the guy up in LA, McVay. Like, if he walks away, is he somebody that you go and take a run after?
Right.
But if he leaves the Rams, does he even want to coach this season? Is the question? You know what I mean? So, short of something crazy like that happening, I don't think that this is a transitional hire. I don't think that you expected, hey, McVay's going to walk away from the Rams or Brandon Staley's going to get fired by the Chargers or whatever that case is. I wouldn't want Staley anyway. I've seen the way his teams tend to collapse, and I don't really care for Brandon Staley as a head coach anyway. But the McVay one is interesting. Jim Harbaugh always gets the meter running for whatever reason for NFL fans. I don't like Harbaugh. I wouldn't want Harbaugh to coach my team either. So for me, I think Eberflus is a guy.
What about Sean Payton? I see him on the Fox telecast, and he looks like he's got to get back in the game.
I think Sean Payton's going to go. I honestly believe that Sean Payton goes to somewhere where he's got a quarterback more like Drew Brees. And that's not Justin Fields. Like I think that if Sean Payton ends up with a job, it'll be somewhere crazy that we just don't expect. Like, say the Bills lose today. Say the Bills lose today and they let go of McDermott.
Oh boy, that
would be a huge landing spot for Sean God. I can't think of his name now. You just said his name. Sean Payton. Be a huge landing spot for Sean Payton would be Buffalo. Other than Buffalo, you're looking at. I mean, where else could you see Sean Payton go? I don't see Sean Payton as a good fit for the Bears.
Maybe he wants to go somewhere where something's established already.
Yeah.
Where they have something. I'd have to go through the teams to see who that is. Maybe Sean Payton and Aaron Rodgers hook up.
Or
I don't
maybe
know.
Sean Payton ends up in Dallas if Dallas loses today. You know, or maybe Sean Payton goes to a team like the Raiders, or
I was thinking the Raiders, but the Raiders took a large step back this season.
yeah. If the Bengals lose today, maybe Sean Payton ends up as the head coach of the Bengals. You know, I'm not saying that any team that loses today is looking to fire their head coach, but I'm saying it's a possibility when you got a guy like Sean Payton who's willing to knock on the door. Can you imagine Sean Payton for the next 10 years with Joe Burrow as his quarterback?
Ooh,
I mean,
that's scary.
yeah, and Fitzy says the Colts.
Yeah, you know what?
The other Fitzy.
Just because I mean, they got some space, they got some draft capital. That might be an interesting landing spot. I mean, the defense there is still okay. They have some talented players. They didn't really play, high caliber football, but they're still decent. They're going to get a quarterback. I don't see any scenario where they don't. If he wants to develop a quarterback again, I mean, he's got to be pushing 60. Does he want to do that, or does he want a soft landing spot? It just depends on. He seems like a guy who wouldn't shrink from a challenge, though.
Would he be able to right the ship in Denver? Can anybody right the ship in Denver?
My God, who would want that? No, a rookie coach trying to make a name for himself. That's who's going to Denver. Unless they just throw a ton of money at. Unless he gets the Gruden.
That's who's hiring Ricky Renneria. Denver's hiring Ricky Renneria.
Yes, Ricky. Take another pitcher out. Let's use 9 pitchers in a decisive playoff game. Here we go.
So, we've talked about the Bears a little bit here. There's another team in Chicago that's really starting to turn it up, and that's the Blackhawks. And they've won 6 out of their last 7. Look, I don't think that this is going to be a team that turns it around and makes a run to the playoffs. I really don't. But the 6 out of the last 7 is really going to start to create some excitement for some of their young players who are scoring a lot, plus some of their veteran players who are scoring a lot. And if Patrick Kane is healthy, which I don't know where he's at with his hip, but if he's healthy, how many more home games do you think we have with Patrick Kane? Trade deadline is the middle of February sometime. We got maybe 6 or 7 home games left with Patrick. 6 or 7 home games left for the Blackhawks before the trade deadline. I'm going to the game February 7th with my daughter. I'm hopeful that I'll get to see Kaner one more time.
I'm thinking that they got to go somewhat deep. They would be 3 or 4 games at least. He's got to play some games to show that he's healthy, can pass a physical.
Jeremiah says, I need them to go ahead and turn that back down. The Blackhawks will turn it back down. I guarantee you. Everybody wants the Canadian kid. And I hate watching my team lose, especially if it means we're losing Kaner. To me, you think Chicago Blackhawks hockey. And I know, look, we've had some great players, Bobby Hull, the list goes on and on and on with great players in the Blackhawks organization. But Patrick Kane's the greatest American-born player in the history of the NHL. And he's been a fixture in the Blackhawks. He's won 3 Stanley Cups. And I don't know why I'm more okay with losing Jonathan Taves than I am with Kaner. But there's just something, like, I've always been drawn to Patrick Kane. Like, I love this kid, the way he plays. And to see him in another uniform, man, that would bother me. It would hurt a lot to see Patrick Kane in another uniform.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I think we talked about this before. Like, this is what teams do now. I mean, maybe before he goes out to pasture, he comes back and gets a goal against the Edmonton Oilers or something like that. But I mean, you have to look at the value that you get back for him, and they are rebuilding.
Yeah.
They want to get something back from him from a desperate team, and you get a good price. You got to pull the trigger. You have to do it for your fans, and there'll be maybe not another Patrick Kane, but there'll be other players that then you get introduced to. And unfortunately, you got to move on. It'll hurt. Yeah, I like the way he plays too. I mean, geez, he's very creative, very good with the puck. even without the puck. Very good passing. That when we talked about that Bruins, or no, it wasn't the Bruins. It was their first Stanley Cup when he got the goal and no one knew. I mean, what a nifty shot.
Yeah, against the Flyers. Yeah.
I mean, he basically almost single-handedly ruined Luongo's career. Got in his head.
Yeah.
You know, so much. I mean, the guy was, it was such a great run, but that's the thing. You have to be able to evaluate your talent, what you have, the price you have. They can't be thinking like teams thought 25 years ago.
I know. And I see Jeremiah's comment here. Shut down Kane, let him heal up, work out a 1-year deal so he can come back healthy next year. If you get Bedard, you could really keep him. I know. And I agree with you. I would love to see something like that happen. I just think that they're more likely to trade him at this point. I mean, you listen to some of the interviews that Taves and Kane are having right now, and it almost seems like both of them are conflicted as to what they want to do. You hear Taves talking about it, and on one hand, he's like, I've never seen myself wearing another sweater in this league. But at the same time, I recognize the business side of things, and I know where, there's places out there that could use a player of my skill level, and I'd like to win again. But you hear the conflict in the interviews and their conflict in what they want to do. I just have a hard time with it with Keener for whatever reason. I just do. I don't want to see the kid go. I've enjoyed watching him play. He's my favorite NHL player of all time. And look, I've watched a lot of hockey in my life, but Patrick Kane, to me, I've never seen anybody with hands like his, and to see him in another sweater would just, I just don't want to see it. I don't want to see it.
We'll have to get a BetterHelp sponsor to sponsor you through the counseling.
I'm gonna need somebody to sit me down on a couch. Let me cry it out for a little bit.
You can do it over the phone now. Cole.
Yeah,
that's
true. Yeah, we could Zoom call it. I'll lay back and
all right, Brandon.
Put on some soothing sounds and fall asleep. And
it'll be me with a voice, and a different voice transmitter on there. I'll be like, wait a second, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah. Jeremiah says they're not going to get enough for him is my problem. I'm fine with getting a haul for him, but that's not the case this year. You'll get less than you got for Hagel last year. That was another trade. I don't understand. I don't understand what the Blackhawks have done with their salary cap over the last 10 years. I don't understand what they've done with dumping contracts. Artemi Panarin was one that boggled my mind. Hagel last year boggled my mind. What is going on in Chicago that all of a sudden we can't afford these? We're still packing the stadium on a Tuesday freaking night. And you're telling me we can't afford players. It just doesn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense to me for the Cubs when they did. It didn't make sense to me for the Bears. It doesn't make sense for me with these teams in this city. Why we should ever? I mean, I shouldn't say ever, but we definitely shouldn't be going through more than one rebuild in a 10-year span. We definitely shouldn't. This will be the
Cubs, even your Cubs.
Yeah. This will be the second rebuild in 15 years for the Blackhawks. It shouldn't be happening. We shouldn't. There's no reason why they can't afford these prices. And you talk about the salary cap and you talk about all that. The Blackhawks, they're close to not even hitting the salary floor. I saw an article the other day of what happens if an NHL team doesn't make the salary floor.
Do they have to pay? I mean, is there some kind of luxury?
Dude, I have to be honest with you, I don't know enough about it to tell you, but
should have a floor too.
Why are the Blackhawks worried about the floor? It should be. You're the Chicago freaking Blackhawks. You should be worried about what happens if you go over the cap, not about what happens if you can't reach the floor. That's what pisses me off about a lot of these teams in the city is they treat us like we're a small market city, and we're not. This is a big market city. This is a city that deserves to have championship after championship after championship. We deserve to be like the Bostons of the world, the New Yorks of the world, the LAs of the world. We deserve to have our front offices spending that type of money to keep all of our teams winning those types of championships, or at least competing for those types of championships year in and year out?
Cap floor violation, a fine of at least $1 million and no more than $5 million with an equal amount of reduction in cap ceiling for the team next season. At least that's what it looks like. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you should be hitting a floor in Chicago, really. Still the third biggest city in America, last I checked. You know, when these teams bottom out, they really try to bottom out now to the, down to the studs. And
that should never happen in our city.
Yeah, I know. It should not this often. You shouldn't have, going to be if the Bulls do what I think they should do. It's going to be almost every team rebuilding except for maybe the Sox.
Let me ask you, when was the last time you saw the New York Yankees rebuild?
I mean, after Jeter for a year or two,
they didn't rebuild after Jeter. They were
when they traded Aroldis Chapman to the
but that wasn't
back the next year.
That wasn't a rebuild. They were still in the top 2 to 3 in their division. They were still competing. They were still running for it wasn't a rebuild. They retooled.
Yeah,
but that's not a rebuild. Like I'm okay with a retooling. I understand a retooling. I understand that sometimes your big guys don't hit or teams don't mesh, and you got to figure something out for a year or whatever the case is. But it's not a rebuild. When was the last time we saw the Boston Red Sox go through a rebuild?
No.
When was the last time? Well, they're not even really rebuilding right now. I mean, they went out.
They still have some.
Yeah, they're retooling. I mean, but the Dodgers, another team that every year goes. The St. Louis Cardinals. The St. Louis freaking Cardinals. You want to talk about a small market city? St. Louis is a small market city.
Yes.
And we never have to endure. They never have to endure what we have to endure. They never have to. You go to the NHL. I can't remember the last time. I mean, you look at teams all over the place, right? Like the Montreal Canadiens, who are a team that are up and down. You go through the Detroit Red Wings, who were a powerhouse, and Colorado Avalanche, who are a powerhouse throughout the 90s and the early 2000s, and then both of them fell off for a little bit. Colorado's back up there. They won a cup last year. They're one of the best teams, and they're going to be a great team for a long time. We should never, in our city, be at a point where we are like, damn, is our team going to spend even the floor of a salary? Are we going to have the least amount spent on our roster in the history of the NHL? Like that is a slap in the face, man.
You shouldn't have this many organizations who I think are underspending. Even though I think the Cubs and the Sox are near the top, they're never at the top. They're always saving money for whatever reason they make up. I know the Sox get less fans, but they've had some fans in the seats. That team's making money, and the Cubs, we don't even have to say how much money they're making. They're a damn cash register over there, and you're kind of needling around. I mean, we did have the Swanson deal.
Good morning, Danny.
Good afternoon or morning, wherever you are. Is Danny on the East Coast?
He might be, but it's 11:45 here in Chicago, so it's about morning, afternoonish, depending on are you waking up or have you been awake. And if you are just waking up, I don't know why you haven't been listening to us for the last hour and a half, but you haven't been. But anyway, this city, this franchise, the Blackhawks. Like, I just don't get it, and it angers me. Like the one thing that in my dream that I would love, my dream scenario, it would be to sit down with the front offices of each team at the same time. And my first question to them would be, what the fuck? That would be my first question to them. And when they look at me sideways, I'm going to be like, guys, how can you try to get people here to believe that you don't have the money to spend?
Is that what Kevin Warren is saying right about now? Is Kevin Warren at the opening press meeting was pretty slick. He was pretty slick. He was more like Denzel Washington. When the cameras go off, does he turn into Samuel L. Jackson
Yeah.
and tell the Bears, what the motherfucker? God damn it!
That's what I
That's one
want.
tasty burger.
That's
What
what I
are we doing
want.
around here?
And that's what I want, and that's what every team in this city needs. They need a GM or a president of operations that will not accept a losing culture. Will not accept the fact that ownership doesn't give them money to spend. And you don't want to give me money to spend? That's fine. I'm going to go somewhere else. Do not take no for an answer. Be like, look, this is the guy we need. This is how much it's going to cost. Give me my guy.
I'm glad they're dead, and I hope they burn in hell.
And that's what we need. That's what this city freaking needs. And that's what the city deserves. We deserve a champion. Dude, I've been all over the country. I've been on the West Coast. I've been on the East Coast. I grew up here in Chicago. I've seen it. Boston fans have a very devout fan base. They are just as rabid as we are here in Chicago.
Yep.
They love their teams. The Patriots fans are a little annoying. They're a lot annoying. But for the most part, the fans of those teams are just as we are here in Chicago. Here in Boston are the only two places I've ever seen with fan bases like ours. LA's fan base sucks. They baseball games, they don't show up to like the third inning and they leave before the seventh because there's so many other things that you would want to do in LA. You go to New York, their fans are just assholes. They just want to fight. Like, you don't find the atmosphere that you find here in Chicago other than in Boston. And fan bases like that, they don't deserve to be treated like they are small market cities. They don't deserve to be treated like they don't have the money to spend with the prices that they pay to go out to games and all this other stuff. Don't pretend like you don't have the money to spend, because we all know that you do. We all know that you have the money to spend. We all know how much we pay per ticket, per hot dog, per beer, per everything that we put in your pocket, for a jersey. For whatever it is that we purchase, we know what it costs. And I know that it costs me half of a damn paycheck to take a family of 4 to a baseball game. And you're going to sit there and tell me you don't have the money to pay a high-priced player that would help your team win for years to come?
Losses.
Yes, biblical losses. Oh, my God. Dude, if at that time, when he said the biblical losses thing,
people are dying and can't breathe of COVID, and
businesses
are shuttering their doors, and the Cubs are in trouble.
If I was in reaching distance, I would have punched him in the face.
Yeah.
I would have gone to jail for punching him in the face for saying something so stupid.
And that's the thing. They don't know what it costs for beer. Or if they do, they don't know. No, they don't know what it costs, because they don't know what it costs you, Combs. They do not know what it costs you or any other fan.
I think they know. I just don't think they care.
I don't even know if they know. I don't even know if they know what a common wage is. I don't even know if that even concerns them. I mean, if you're going to make that statement, you don't know. Or maybe you do. Maybe they do, but I don't think they do. I would bet that I don't know if they might know what the dollar amount is, but they don't know what that cost is to you.
Yeah, I just think they're ignorant. They're ignorant to it.
They don't care. Yep.
Yeah. They don't, and it's sad, but it's the truth. And and then Jeremiah says, and then they tried to buy a soccer club for billions, which is why I said last year when they signed Seiya Suzuki, everybody was all, no, look, the Cubs they're trying to spend money. No, they weren't. They were trying to build up their foreign relations. They were trying to show that they could take a player from another country and have success. They didn't care. They were trying to build their foreign relations because they were trying to buy a freaking soccer club over in England.
Yep.
That's why they spent the money on Suzuki last year. It wasn't for any other reason. They weren't trying to get better. They weren't trying to be a winning club. They weren't trying to show you they could spend money. They were doing it for a purpose. But anyway, it's been an hour and 18 minutes. I've really got to pee. So we're going to end this broadcast.
And looking at me anymore is the actual truth. This is the size of my actual nose. No. Profile.
Profile. It's just like one of those faces that the mask with the nose.
I might have a slap. I might be on the edge of a cutlass slap, face.
Yeah.
I want to slap sometimes, especially when my mouth is opening and shutting.
Oh God.
A little bit of that. I'll admit it.
All right. So next week we're going to be back. We're going to have another ACL Pro on. We are going to be talking some more Bears. We'll talk, the AFC, NFC Championship games. We'll preview those, and we'll probably talk some more Cubs, Blackhawks, Bulls. I don't know why we talk about the Bulls. They're, God, so frustrating. Anyway, till next week, Man Hour Nation, rise up.